Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another edition of the Takedown Podcast. My name is Mike Larkin, and joining me, as always, is my boy, RC Roy Costin himself. Roy, we are back into the swing of things as far as talking about the current day WWE product. Our last episode featured our second episode review of WSX Wrestling Society X, but we go from 2006, 2007 back into modern day times in 2026. A lot has been going on in the world of professional wrestling. I figured we started off like this. Since we did miss last week and we did see a lot of the news before we get into what we thought about Raw and this and that, CM Punk is the new WWE champion after Gunther took out Cody Rhodes, and then Sami Zayn had no opponent, but then Nick Aldis is like, hey, I called somebody, you're going to have an opponent, and then it turned out being CM Punk in Chicago, and CM Punk beat Sami Zayn after Sami Zayn had a 9-day title reign. We'll start with that one first, and we also did now know that it will be CM Punk and Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Roy, I'll take it over to you. Your thoughts?
I don't mind Punk coming back and winning the title. It sucks for Sammy because I even said it a couple of weeks ago that Sammy was just going to be a transitional champion anyways. It sucks for him because he does have a big, following as far as fans go and stuff like that. This might not be the last time he wins the title. I could see him winning the title again down the line. But I think they just had it set in stone that it was going to be Punk and Cody at SummerSlam. So they had to figure out, how do we get to that? Well, let's take the belt off of Cody, put it on Sammy, have Sammy lose it to Punk, and now it's going to be Punk and Cody. But the only thing is, I still am hoping that we get like a fatal four-way. You could take the guys that are going to be in the tag match at Saturday night's main event and just turn that into a fatal four-way match. I don't see why that wouldn't be a bad idea.
I think it could be a schmaz, as we know it. Saturday night's main event, it's Gunther and Sammy against Cody and Punk. My thing, too, with that is we did see on SmackDown that Nick Aldis was told to change the match, and he didn't. I think Gunther choked him out. I want to see Gunther and Nick Aldis because I think it'll be really good, and it's great for Magnus to finally get his shine and get his in-ring debut in WWE. But I think with everything that's going on, I much prefer the Fatal 4-Way because I know they wanted to do Punk and Cody Rhodes, but my thing with that, too, is it was kind of predictable. But if you add that other elements of Gunther and Sammy who are all in the title picture, I think that adds a little bit of more flavor and variety to the match. But what would you prefer, the Fatal 4-Way, or do you like what they're doing with Gunther and Nick Aldis with him choking him out on SmackDown?
I like it. I'm more of a fan of, because like you said, it would be nice to see Aldis, Magnus, whatever you want to call him, wrestle in WWE. That would be awesome. But I've always been a fan of the general manager using a proxy. So I was kind of thinking that somehow or another he has to call in a favor with Heyman, and Heyman's like, well, you can use Brock for his last match, but in return, you've got to give like Braun a title match or something like that. I prefer the Fatal 4-Way. If you're going to do Aldis and Gunther, do it at a different pay-per-view. Even though I know SummerSlam's a huge deal and everything, it would be better, in my opinion, to have Gunther in the Fatal 4-Way, and then maybe Aldis is the reason why Gunther doesn't win the Fatal 4-Way, and then you can bring it and do it at like Rumble, do it at the Royal Rumble, or do it later in this year. But yeah, I'd rather see the Fatal 4-Way at SummerSlam than seeing Gunther versus Aldis.
I agree, and I mean, you could also say that for Survivor Series, another big force. So, I mean, there's ways to build it for later in the year. But I think Gunther in that title picture and having going for that title retention there, it really does help because it's Gunther, and we really haven't done really a lot since the whole retired AJ Styles. He's kind of been in limbo, so it gives him something as far as the title picture goes and what he's been doing with Cody. And Sami Zayn deserves more of that. I mean, he got the Christian title run, for God's sake. So to put him in this match works perfectly. And then on the other side of the coin, we also do have CM Punk, who is now the champion again, who said, championships, they come out of thin air, any title opportunity, and he made the most of that opportunity. So there's many different layers and levels to this story. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see how it turns out. And the other thing that we did see turn out last week on the AEW side of things, MJF and Kenny Omega had a great match. If Kenny lost, this would be it for him, much like Hangman, much like Cody. But Kenny Omega wound up winning, and he is the new AEW World's Heavyweight Champion. MJF has a little thing going on with Andrade still. Are we going to get Kenny Omega and MJF at the rematch at AEW Redemption? We also know now it's Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay for AEW All in London because Tony loves him some Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay. So they're going in many directions here. But I think it's great to see Kenny Omega win the title that he hasn't held in about 3 or 4 years now, which is great to think about. But when you have an OG like Kenny Omega doing his thing, we all hear the battle cry, and it's Kenny effing Omega. So for you, Mr. Roy Costin, your thoughts on Kenny Omega winning the AEW World Championship? MJF takes another L. We've had 5 or 6 championship changes within the last year, and a lot of them at the expense of MJF.
I said it on Deep in the Heart of Wrestling the first time you guys had me on, and once again, thank you for having me on.
You're welcome.
That it's been so long since Kenny won or had the main title, and he is arguably one of the greatest wrestlers in the world. And why not put it back on him? And that's what Tony ended up doing. To speak on the part of, the stipulation, as we saw, Hangman came back on Collision. And he even addressed the fact that, I can't go after the world title anymore. My question is, does that really matter? Because there are so many titles in AEW. And can he go after, the Ring of Honor world title? Because that's still technically a world title. Can he go after that one? As far as MJF, I could see them continuing the Andrade MJF feud. Maybe have Andrade pick up a title before All In. That way they can have Andrade and MJF for a title at All In. I'd be very curious to know how much more time MJF has on his contract, because in a way, it almost does seem like a move of, he's only got a few months left. We need to take the title off of him and then just let him sit on the sidelines until his contract runs out. So I'd be interested to see that, but I would not be opposed to an Andrade MJF for a Continental title. Then you have your Ospreay and Omega match for the AEW title. So it'd be interesting. I like the way things are shaping up for All In.
I think what's great to add to your point is Andrade's going after Mark Davis for the national championship next week. And I think what's interesting about it is we get to have Andrade win that, and then we can do Andrade MJF for the national championship and have some prestige there. And I think what you can also do, too, as well, is with Ospreay and Omega. Kenny Omega's been warning Ospreay about joining the Death Riders. Are you sure you want to do this? And as we know, Ospreay's now in the Death Riders. So I think what we could see here is, I think it'll be another transitional run. I see Ospreay winning the title in Wembley, and either it's a whole thing where he full-on turns heel, full-on heel mode here, or we have just, Jon Moxley has been suckering him in all along, so he could be the one to take the title off of Ospreay. So there's many different ways that you could go with this, but I think it's a game of chess, and I think there's going to be a lot of mind games going into AEW All in London that hopefully tells a compelling story. But we shall see on all sides where Kenny Omega and MJF go. But like you said, it's an interesting build towards All In. Let's just see how we get to Redemption first as the in-betweener, so you will, the stopgap. And then, speaking of stopping and gapping, we have another stopgap here because breaking news from the 78th anniversary NWA. I'm so happy to see Natty back in action as she will be in a three-way dance against Kenzie Page, who she's fought for that NWA Women's World Championship, and her sister, Kylie Page, another fantastic athlete. I am really looking forward to this match. I love the NWA partnership. Billy Corgan has gone on record saying that WWE has been nothing but good to him with the exchange of talent there. So I got to ask you, what are your thoughts against Natalya, Natty, against the Page sisters in that three-way dance at the NWA 78th anniversary?
I think it's interesting because and I may be wrong on this account, but the Page sisters are the NWA Women's Tag Champions, aren't they?
I believe so, yes.
So it's interesting that it's Natty going into a triple threat match against not only sisters, but an established tag team that may or may not be the tag champions at the moment. I wonder if they didn't want to do like a tag match for the titles because maybe Natty's not losing that match. I would love to see more integration with more talent. I like that Natty's going to NWA and she's going to compete there, but give me some of these other talents that aren't really doing much. Let them go to NWA for a little while. Let them be on the card.
Dude, I'm right there with you because I saw such a stupid post on Twitter. It's like, oh, Damian, like, we'll use Damian Priest as an example. Oh, Damian Priest, he's going down to AAA, used to be a world champion, now he's tag champion, derpa, derpa, der. I'm like, it doesn't hurt for Damian Priest to go down to AAA. Number one, The Undertaker likes him. Number two, he's Puerto Rican and his girlfriend's down there in Lola Vice. And number three, with Vikingo relinquishing the AAA Latin Championship because of injury, you get Damian Priest to go for the title, which we saw him cut the promo on this week's AAA. Like, it's not a demotion. I always equate it like when people would say, oh, these guys are going to NXT. It's not a demotion. It adds a lot to the brand. You get to integrate superstars, which is an integral part, like you mentioned, but it's not a demotion for a main roster talent to go to NXT or AAA, vice versa.
So to follow up on that, I think people misinterpret when main roster talent do these things where they go to AAA like Damian Priest is doing, or if they go and help out and do a couple matches in NXT, whatever the case is. I think people misinterpret that as the way that AEW does things with Ring of Honor.
Mm-hmm.
Because in AEW, you can see like Sammy Guevara. Sammy Guevara was contending for the world championship at one point. They had the fatal four-way Four Pillars match. And then he just dropped off the face of the earth. And it was because he went to Ring of Honor and was like, or no, he went to like CMLL. It wasn't even Ring of Honor.
Yeah, then him and Dustin Rhodes are like the Ring of Honor tag champs and the six-man tag champs and all that good stuff.
Yeah, like all of that. And you didn't see him on AEW anymore. Whereas with Damian Priest going to AAA, he's there, but he is still a tag champion on SmackDown. He's still making his appearances on the main roster. What WWE is doing is we're going to take these guys that are on TV, put them on a different show to bring up that show. Whereas it's not a demotion. Whereas with you have AEW, when they go to Ring of Honor, they're there for like a year and you have no idea because Ring of Honor is on streaming only platform that you have to pay for and stuff like that. So you didn't even realize that, Dustin Rhodes is still a part of AEW. You didn't realize that Sammy Guevara is still there. If it wasn't for the fact that Shane Taylor Promotions pops up every once in a while on like Collision, you wouldn't have a clue that they were still there. Up until recently, I thought Willie Mack was still with AEW, just wrestling in Ring of Honor.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's a big difference when the two companies do that, because with one, it seems like they are trying to build up the other promotions by lending out. And then with one, it seems like, oh, we're going to try to make this promotion better, but we're not going to have you on main TV anymore.
It's one of those things for me too. Well, first of all, they're building to Damian Priest and R-Truth against the War Raiders in a title unification match. So I'm going to say right now, they keep ducking them. If you want a big match for Triple Mania this year, War Raiders against Priest and Truth. Like, you already are going to get Dominic and El Grande Americano. What better way to really amplify those two nights? But also at the same time too, man, like you mentioned with Ring of Honor, I mean, look at AEW, like Leo Rush. He knows it's fine. It's fine. Has been getting over, and that started on Ring of Honor. So if you're a casual fan and you're coming back to AEW, or you're watching AEW, and then you see Leo Rush with Action Andretti doing his thing, and he's normal, then all of a sudden you see that it's fine. He knows, and he's coming out of the backpack, and he's got the crazy eyes and everything, and he's just being goofy and nuts. The character's getting over, but we don't know where the overall origins of the character is because you're not doing it on AEW television.
Yeah, that was me. 1 week I see him with Action Andretti and all them, and then like a couple weeks later, he's spewing out black goo. He's got his title is completely black, and I'm like, what title is that? Oh, it's a Ring of Honor title. Okay, cool. Where did this come from? Where is this development coming from? And then it's like Tony will say, oh, if you want to know where this happened, you got to check out Ring of Honor.
Highlights,
Okay.
Tony. Highlights.
Yeah, like give us highlights for it. I know people gave O'Shea Jackson Jr. a bunch of crap a few years ago on Twitter about, who is this person? I need some sort of, clips or something to introduce me to this person. So every time somebody new comes along, they always bring that up. But I think the thing that he was trying to get across, and the same thing that I try to get across, is if you're bringing someone in that is like a one-off, please give me some sort of highlight reel. Give me some sort of vignette. Let me know who this person is. If you're bringing in a debuting person, let the story play out. That'll show me who this person is. And if you're doing a character change, like with Leo Rush, especially that big of a character change, then give me vignettes and highlights, like you just said, of what he's been doing in Ring of Honor to get him to this point. Because other than that, it's just, oh, he was Leo Rush, and now he's some demon-possessed person. I don't get it.
I've always used this example from 2 years ago when Chris Jericho wrestled Atlantis Jr. on Dynamite out of nowhere. Because apparently there was a Twitter exchange, and then, they gave the highlights of, back in the 90s, Chris Jericho, as La Corazon de Leon, wrestled Atlantis in AAA in Mexico and all these places. And, him and his father have this history, and derp. By the way, they're going to wrestle next week on Dynamite. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, kind of random, but fine, whatever. I guess, sure, fine. But the other thing I use as a prime example, look at what they're doing. Nikki Blackheart, Reina Falcon, is doing her thing. I probably butcher that. It's Reina Falcon or something like that.
No, you had it right. Reina Falcon.
Reina Falcon. That vignette this week on NXT of her lifting the weights, talking about dominating the division. These women have nothing on me. I'm going to be the most dominant figure in NXT. They kept showing her and Tatum Paxley, and I'm going to make my debut next week on NXT. that was perfect because now you want to see her debut. And also, you're teasing as one of her first integral feuds, Tatum Paxley, which shows credibility because she's a former NXT Women's Champion, former NXT Women's North American Champion, and she's become a prime staple of NXT for these last few years, and she's had a great evolution and trajectory arc. So you putting her in there with Reina Falcon just shows her strength, her power, while also taking on a prominent superstar in their first feud.
Yeah, exactly. And even if I didn't follow Reina Falcon when she was on the Indies as Nikki Blackheart, I would be really hyped up about this because you got to see her come out the first night and do her torture rack thing. Then you get this vignette letting everybody know who she is, letting everybody know what her purpose is. And then you get to say, next week, she's going to make her in-ring debut. So you cover 3 different things over the past 2 weeks to where people can get invested. Now, if they just had her come out and just start beating the crap out of Tatum Paxley and then never show up again, that would be, who was that? Why did that happen? But at least now with the follow-up, they're answering the questions that people would have had. And it's not a lot of times that AEW does something like that. That is one of the things that I can't appreciate about WWE is, for lack of better terms, they treat their fans like they're stupid. Like, here, we have to hold your hand and talk you through this. Whereas with AEW, they treat all of their fans as if they've watched every single wrestling match that's ever existed anywhere.
Yes. Like, so, all the wrestling fans are team traders.
Yeah, exactly. So
no, you're totally fine, and my apologies for cutting you off there. But I mean,
oh no, you're fine.
All right, cool. Yeah, no, the thing too is I just had to add to that. That's his thing, is he acts like everybody's tape traded. Everybody saw every FMW Onita match. Everybody saw every New Japan match that there is known to man. You were at that indie like I was. And here's the thing: when Christopher Daniels wrestled Matt Sydal or whoever was on Dynamite, and after he bought Ring of Honor, and he's like, "Oh, I remember when you two guys wrestled this." I'm like, "That's great." I remember in the mid-2000s when I went to Sports Plus with my dad in Lake Grove, New York, to go see Christopher Daniels versus Matt Sydal, or Christopher Daniels and Matt Sydal as a tag team. You know, I remember that. But that doesn't mean this person, that person, everybody knows that Christopher Daniels and Matt Sydal were a tag team in Ring of Honor managed by Allison Danger. Nobody knows that unless you're really hardcore, deep into the weeds, so to speak, of that professional wrestling underground scene. So you have to, like you mentioned, take my hand. Okay, here's what we're doing here. Prime example, if Reina Falcona just attacked and we never saw again, it reminds me of a canceled WWE storyline in 2007. And tell me if you remember this. When Chrissy Vane, who is now in WoW and she's done a lot of great things, she was with Ryan O'Reilly at the time, the man who would later go on to be Connor of the Ascension, right? So she comes out in 2007, beats up Tori Wilson. We see her in a backstage segment that we never see again because her and her boyfriend quit at the time because of travel on the road, whatever it was, that's their business. But the thing is, too, that storyline was supposed to be Tori Wilson had a sister. This is her sister, and she was jealous of her sister. But we never got to that. We saw the girl one time attack Tori Wilson. Who was this woman? Where are we going with this? But we never have the plan out because of what happened.
Yeah, and I mean, stuff like that happens. And I never fought anybody in that situation. But I fought people when it is a planned match that you are going to have. You announce the match with no, it's just, hey, by the way, here's when, okay, prime example for me.
Okay.
When AAA and AEW still were partners.
Yeah.
They brought in Vikingo.
Yes.
The first time they brought in Vikingo, I had no idea who he was. And all they said was, oh, yeah, we're going to have a match, and it's going to feature Vikingo from AAA. And that was it. And I'm like, okay, who is this guy? I have no idea who he is. I don't watch AAA at this time. I don't know who Vikingo is. He looks cool, don't get me wrong, but I don't know what's going on. And then he was gone. He never showed back up until like
Kenny Omega
months and
match.
months later. Yeah, and I'm like, okay, what was the deal with that? So that was just my personal experience with that of show me who he is, that way I can be excited for the match, not after the match be like, oh yeah, no, that was a good match, but I have no idea who this guy is.
So I only knew of Vikingo at the time because in 2019, when TNA and AAA were working together, when TNA did some Mexico shows that aired on Impact, he was one of the X Division guys that they featured. That's the only time I ever saw Vikingo. And I wasn't a AAA avid watcher like you. I mean, they've done the first time matches of like John Moxley and Yuji Nagata, and I'm like, I like Yuji Nagata. We've all known for he was on WCW in Japan, but you know, if you just throw it out there, I'm like, oh my god, this is a dream match. But I'm like, not everybody knows who Yuji Nagata is, or oh my god, we're getting Samoa Joe against Minoru Suzuki. We know who Minoru Suzuki is, and we respect his talents, but not a lot of people know who Minoru Suzuki is. And you're just bringing these people in. Ultimo Guerrero, for God's sake, when he wrestled Okada on Collision, not a lot of people know who Ultimo Guerrero is, and you bring him in the mask when in where he is in Mexico, he doesn't even have the mask. So it's just like whatever. But they try because Tony has that overall fantasy booker. Whatever he has still in him, but still, it's just like explain. You need explanations.
Yeah, and I mean Meltzer's talked about it before where he says something along the lines of if you look at the charts and look at the data and yada yada yada, you'll see that AEW fans are smarter and have more money than WWE fans, and WWE fans have lower intelligence and they're all low income and blah 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 and this that and the other. And I'm just like, no, what does that matter?
Nothing.
And two, it doesn't matter about your intelligence. It matters about what you have seen before. You know, don't show me all these guys one time and expect me to know who they are. At least give me some sort of highlight package before their match. That way you can kind of know what to expect.
Dave Meltzer is such a clown, man. He's just such a clown. I shake my head. Roy, you got to do it with me now. Brian. That's probably the only time I really will enjoy their shows. First of all, if you pay $15 a month for these dinguses, you're out of your mind. And number two, the only part that I like is when Brian Alvarez sticks up for himself and is like, Dave, you're wrong, or Dave, you're stupid, or that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard you said. Like, Brian, you need to get more chutzpah. Dare I say moxie. Just tell Dave off. It's okay. It's okay, Brian.
I saw video, I think it was last week, where Meltzer cut off Brian while he's talking, and you could just see Alvarez doing like this.
Yeah, the face.
It's like, see, man, even he's fed up with you half the time.
Yeah, because Dave gets a Woody or a Chubby, to quote Talladega Nights Ricky Bobby, for all of this, and it's like, Dave, decaf, slow down. God. Tranquilo. Well, we'll get into some tranquilo right now. So we're going to get to Monday Night Raw. One of the takeaways that I do want to mention. So they've been building this ups and downs, the backstage, interactions, the SUVs, her interaction with Chad Gable, the Alpha Academy in the ring with Chad Gable. So we find out Maxine Dupree comes out, and then Otis and Tozawa come out, and they're like, why? We told you he was bad news. And then Otis had to get some things off of his chest, and he looks like he's about to tell Maxine Dupree how he feels about her. And I'm like, and then Austin Theory's like, you're a loser. No woman wants to be with you. And then I said, Mandy Rose says hello. It's because they did that storyline 6 years ago. We ain't going to talk about the fact that Otis didn't get Mandy Rose, which, by the way, congratulations to her and Tino Sabatella. Yeah. They're going to be having a kid. But my thing is, you're kind of rehashing a story from 6 years ago. And I'm like, okay. And then Austin Theory gets into the ring, and they're all brawling, and it's a great pull apart. And then Bronson Reed Bronson Reed, excuse me, Braun Breaker, wrong Bronson. Braun Breaker spears Akira Tozawa, then he spears Otis, and Theory falls down with him, and then Maxine's like, Otis, I didn't know, you should have told me. And then Austin Theory low blows him from behind, and then it was a swerve. Michael Cole is calling them, just jackasses, and then he's calling Maxine a witch. Michael Cole is heavily invested. I'm all over the place. I gotta tell you, they sold this perfectly. And I gotta ask you, Roy, as a follow up, what did you think of this angle? And are you excited to see the Vision go against Tozawa and Otis?
I feel bad for Tozawa and Otis because this almost feels like, hey, here's going to be the last feud you do before we either split you up or we kind of put you on the back burner. Uh I am looking forward to it just because at least it's something, you know. And it I think we all saw it coming with the whole Maxine playing up the angle of, oh no, you should have told me. Why didn't you tell me before now? Like, we all knew what was about to happen. Um Otis is so good at portraying anything. If he needs to be kind of, the heavy, the angry guy, they can do that. If you want him to do comedy, he's there for the comedy. You want him to be in a love triangle or whatever, hey, he's there in a love triangle. So you got this guy who can do all of these things, and you've got Tozawa. Tozawa's always been a fantastic wrestler. Uh, Even all the way back, when he was part of the 205 tournament, right?
Yeah,
The original one.
and him and Titus O'Neil and Titus Worldwide, and they amped him up for a bit. Former
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, both of the guys are fantastic. I think it would be cool to see them go to like TNA and hang out there for a little while, maybe bolster up the tag division over there if you're not going to really do anything with them, because I, I I don't know for sure if they're not going to do anything after this, but it just feels like they're not going to do anything after this feud.
It kind of feels like it's just like a filler before we get back to the Street Profits or whoever's going to take the title off of them. It's just like, I thought it was cool, but I'm like, that Tozawa and Otis aren't going to win the tag titles, but the fact that they're on TV and they're getting some time, that I'm happy for.
Yeah.
Another thing to even take away from that, we also had Bayley come out wanting the explanation. We're getting Bayley and Lyra at Saturday night's main event. I definitely think Lyra definitely needs to go over in this. Like, she's gone crazy. She looks like she's been on a bender. It looks like she hasn't bathed in about 5 weeks. She's sort of taken over the Tatum Paxley role, and we're starting to see that arc there. Pretty much told Bayley, hey, you're the worst of the 4 horsewomen. You drag everybody down, and it turned into a great ball, and then Lyra lays her out there. So I want to ask, what are your thoughts on this Lyra and Bayley segment?
I would like to see this go past Saturday night's main event.
Mm-hmm.
I do agree with you. I think Lyra has to win at Saturday, but I wouldn't be opposed to there being some sort of, screwy finish where they have to have a rematch. Somehow or another, get the title back involved with this feud. That would be great. But it is nice to see Lyra's character developing more. And I think we even talked about that the last time we did a review on it. Was I wanted to see what happened with her character before I made any kind of assumptions. And I like this idea of Lyra used to be this happy-go-lucky. She would come out, she would help out, she would do all of this stuff. She would be high-fiving fans and just being excited to be there. And just over time, having to deal with Bayley has turned her into this, I have to get wins back. I have to revamp my personality in order to find who I really am. And it's your fault. You're the reason why I have had this downfall. So I really like the way that they're going with it. Um, and actually, the more and more I just talked about it, the more I kind of think Bailey should win at Saturday night's main event just to see how much further this spiral goes with Lyra, and if she has to have somebody come in and essentially reach out a hand and say, "Hey, I'm here to help you."
I like your thinking to that because again, another extension towards SummerSlam, and then maybe Tatum could like smack her out of it. You know what I'm saying? Like Tatum helps Lyra, like Lyra helped Tatum, so that adds even more layers to that story, and I think that will definitely be cool. And I mean, again, it's you have two great talents, and nice to see Lyra as a heel role. I mean, she did her thing in NXT UK when you gave her more of an edge and stuff on that front. But if you're amplifying this character and we're starting to see some more layers to it, you cannot go wrong with the storyline based on that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I'm looking forward to seeing it, and I'm looking forward to hopefully them extending this feud into SummerSlam because they've done so much work over the past few months. And as far as I know, there's been 6 matches announced for SummerSlam, and there's only one women's match that's on the card.
Yeah,
So
living.
I'm hoping that they announce a few more matches because it is the 2 nights. And I'm hoping out of the next matches that they announce, maybe we get, 3 or 4 more women's matches. That way we kind of balance out the card a little bit more.
Absolutely, man. Another thing that really stood out to me when it comes to Monday Night Raw. So we get the Jimmy Uso Royce Keys rematch from SmackDown, very impromptu, very short, might I add. Jacob Fatu comes out, Molly Wops Royce Keys. He didn't want to have to do that. And then we get Solo Sikoa coming out, and pretty much like, I joined the family. He's putting up the ones. Oh, Solo's back. No, he's not. You knew directly as soon as the camera angle was right there. Samoan spike to Jimmy, and then they're fighting. And then he gets overtaken, taken down. And then we get LA Knight, coming out. And it sets up a great brawl. And it sets up LA Knight saying, hey, bring Jimmy, bring Jacob, hey, even bring Jay. So we got a 6-man tag match now at SummerSlam with the Strange Bedfellows, LA Knight, Solo Sikoa, and Royce Keys against the Usos and Jacob Fatu. I'm interested to see how this goes. It has a lot of different layers to it with the 3 people getting along to take down the Dastardly Bloodline because they can see where this is going and that they're going to go back to their old ways. What are your thoughts on the setup for the 6-man tag match at SummerSlam?
So I like the setup of these 3 guys who honestly have no business being together, with Keys, Knight, and Sokoa. They just come together to take on the bloodline for the reason that you just said. Like, are they about to go back into their old ways? I said it a long time ago that they already have been going back into their old ways ever since they started helping Roman win the title back, and especially at the tribal combat with Jacob. It was like, yeah, they are the old bloodline again. And the fact that one, we're getting Royce Keys on SummerSlam, big fan of that.
Huge
I
plus.
like that. And the fact that he is a part of, arguably the main storyline of the bloodline. So it's good to see that he is getting a prominent position going into SummerSlam and having a good spot on SummerSlam. I'm interested to see if post SummerSlam there's still kind of a team, if you will, between LA Knight and Solo Sikoa. Because right now Solo Sikoa's kind of on his own again. And LA Knight's been trying to do the bloodline fight for the longest time. And if he can kind of utilize Solo on his side, then maybe we end up with some sort of tag team with Knight and Sokoa.
I think this is probably the first time Solo Sikoa is very much in babyface form. The first time since his NXT days, like the early starts of NXT 2.0 and getting into the NXT realm. Like, this has been a long time since we've seen Solo as a babyface. I mean, he has the mannerisms, he has the cadence. And I think adding Royce Keys, like you mentioned, huge plus. He's getting a big payday. He's getting a big prominent role in SummerSlam. They definitely see something there. So I'm very interested to see how these combustible elements could coexist, also going against the bloodline. So it definitely has a lot of layers to it. And I know we say that a lot, but that's what makes a great storytelling so compelling. It really makes you talk people into the building and makes you want to see said matchup, especially a match I want to see now with story. So they had a fantastic gauntlet match. Dominic did his thing. Joe Hendry did his thing. Dragon Lee was awesome. Javon Evans was awesome. Rusev and Ethan Page were awesome. But the most awesomest of the awesome, yes, I said it like that, Chad Gable and his redemption story and his arc is fantastic. He gets the win, and he's now going to face Penta for the Intercontinental Championship in his hometown of Minneapolis, Minnesota. If they don't pull the trigger and give Chad Gable the Intercontinental Championship, his first ever singles championship in WWE, then they are crazy. It's a babyface match. Penta in his debut beat Chad Gable when they went to Netflix. So there's a story there. What started his downward spiral to El Grande Americano was after he lost to Penta. So this feels wonderful. It all comes full circle, and give Chad Gable the Intercontinental Championship at SummerSlam. I'm psyched for this. This is going to be fantastic.
I hope that the match ends with Chad Gable, doing the ankle lock, and you finally get to see like Penta tap, and then when they bring the Intercontinental title over, Penta like grabs it from the ref and he looks angry, but then he hands it to Chad. They hug. He does, the thing where he holds up his hand, points to Chad Gable, gives him the Cero Mero, and just kind of shakes his hand because now there's that newfound respect. So I'm hoping that's the way it ends. And you're right. They have to pull the trigger on this because there is no better time to do it. So you go ahead, pull the trigger. And there is a plethora of people that he can face afterwards, whether they're face, whether they're heels, whatever. Everybody in that gauntlet match, perfect for Intercontinental title reigns. So he could lose it to any of them, but he could face all of them down the line. So I'm looking forward to it. I really am.
You have Chad Gable and an Ethan Page match, Chad Gable and Javon, Chad Gable Rusev, Chad Gable Dragon Lee, like we've seen them wrestle many a times. There's so many different avenues that they can go. And I think with Chad, like, how do you not have him win after that impassioned speech, the blood coming down his face after probably what a lot of people are saying, and I'll say it, match of the year thus far with El Grande Americano? How do you not? Like, it's one of those things, too, where Chad Gable has been with this company. He's been on this main roster for 10 years now, from the days of the American Alpha, the Alpha Academy, and this and that. It's finally time for Chad Gable to get his just due, and I think his just due is definitely going to happen at SummerSlam. A couple of other notes I want to mention from Raw. We did mention earlier about Maxine Dupree and everything that went down there. So they do the segment backstage where everybody's all happy, and they got one over on the Alpha Academy, and Paul Heyman's like, oh, it's great to see Maxine here. She's making moves. She's doing her thing. You guys are great. But why the hell do you need me for? And he walks off. They're starting to see that distance from Paul Heyman in the Vision. So I got to ask you, what did you think about Paul Heyman in that segment? Kind of more the distancing from Paul Heyman with the Vision.
I think one of the funniest things he said was, what was it? Logan Paul is healing faster than Conor McGregor or something like
dude,
that.
I popped when he said that. I laughed so hard.
Yeah. I think it's one of two things. Either they are trying to see if the Vision can do good on their own. So, story or backstage wise, they're like, look, let's start separating you guys from Paul Heyman. Let's see how you can stand on your own 2 feet. You have 4 members now. You have everybody in the group can talk. Everybody in the group can wrestle. Let's back off of the Paul Heyman thing. Or I wonder if it's Paul Heyman seeing a sinking ship and he's like, yeah, I'm out. I'm not sticking around with the vision. Uh there's so many people online talking about how this iteration of the vision is it's just one step away from being done anyways. Uh I think there's a lot of potential with the vision. I would like to see them actually pull through with it. There have been rumored reports that Braun Breaker isn't happy with the direction of his character and blah blah blah. First off, I'll say this, brother, you've only been in the game for like 5 years.
Yep.
Whatever they give you, take it.
Take it.
Because Roman Reigns was getting dog food poured on him and he took it, and guess what? He's the guy in WWE.
Yep.
So
came right after that. So yep, perfect example.
Yeah, so just because they've got you as a tag champion with Austin Theory and you're going out there and demolishing people, and you're not the world champion right now, just relax. That being said, I would like to see more with Braun. I'd like to see him kind of take charge as the leader of the vision. There could be some really good storytelling with that where, all of them feel like they should be leading the vision, and there's kind of this back and forth of who should the leader be? Should there even be a leader? Do we need somebody new to come in and be our leader? But I'd like for Braun to kind of step up and be like, hey, look, I'm the guy that won the NXT title. I'm the guy that has been champion before. I've done this, I've done that. I should be the lead of this group. So we don't need Paul Heyman.
You know what it is too? That group was doing with everybody getting their injuries. I mean, adding Maxine is cool. It has a nice little twist to it, but I'm really interested to see where they go because there's such potential, like you mentioned. But if they all can stay healthy, I know Bronson Reed is healthy. I mean, the man looks in great, fantastic shape. So I'm looking forward to seeing when he comes back. So it's all a matter of time. And I think as far as time goes, you look at Brock Lesnar and Obafemi to open up the show and they're mollywopping security. Brock's got the restraining order, even though there wasn't a restraining order. And there wasn't one, and it was a whole bluff. But Oba's like, I'm Obafemi. You can't run from me. He's still trying to say, like, hey, I gave up my title shot, which, again, we've discussed many a times, kind of doesn't make any sense, and it's kind of not logical, but you throw logic out the window. But your thoughts on Oba and Brock's opener on Raw?
The one thing that Oba said that kind of helped things make sense was, if I was going to face off at SummerSlam for a title, you were just going to interfere anyways.
That's the one that made sense, yeah.
That's the only time that he had said something to where I'm like, okay, I can understand it. I know a lot of people online were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he relinquished the title opportunity, blah, blah, blah. He didn't relinquish it. It was more of, let me do this first. Can I have a title shot further down the road? Like I said, whenever they had the King and Queen of the Ring, if they had just said for a title shot, I would have been fine. But the fact that they specifically said for a title shot at SummerSlam, that's where the big hang-up has been. I almost wish they had done it where they they do the Money in the Bank, and how TNA does it with
The
with
Feast or Fire.
the yeah. Well, no, not that one.
Call your
Where
shot
they
gauntlet.
yeah, call your shot. I wish they had done it like that, where you have to turn in your crown in order to get a title shot. That would have been cool. Uh, but no, I like I like that reasoning because it makes sense. But to make it make more sense, you need to add on, if I beat you, then you can't mess with any of my stuff anymore. Like, if I beat you, this is done. This is our final match. Win, lose, or draw, me and you are done. Don't interfere with my matches. Don't call me out anymore. After this match, Oba and Brock finished.
It has to have the proper ending. And in Minneapolis, even if he takes off the boots again or we never see Brock for a hot minute, it has to be the end. This is the culmination. Oba beating Brock solidifies the feud, still solidifies him as the monster and the ruler that he is. So if we could get to that point and not have any, chicanery or shenanigans, if you will, in between that, I think the story is told perfectly. And speaking of stories being told, we did finish with Roman and Seth going ham on one another. Triple H is your work daddy. Thanks for showing up for work. They cut these intense promos against one another. Then it turned into a fight, a whole thing. Seth hits him with the microphone. Roman gets a Superman punch. Roman goes for like the spear and a power bomb. Then he gets countered pedigree and a mic shot by Seth. Then the curb stomp lays him out to end the show. I got to tell you, they really heightened it up going into their match at SummerSlam. And I like the fact that they showed the different chapters of the Shield leading to where we are thus far. That told the great story with the vignettes. What were your thoughts on this Roman Seth contract signing?
I knew it was going to be good. Anytime that Roman and Seth get in the ring together, they're wrestling soulmates. I've heard people use that term before, where regardless of where you are in wrestling, regardless of how long you've been wrestling, you have that one person that you can get in the ring with, and it's going to be magic every time that you're in the ring. And all you got to do is just look at each other and you know exactly what is coming next. The match itself is going to be really good, I think. I hate that Seth stood tall because I kind of want to see Seth win the title.
That's a part of me too, man.
I wouldn't mind seeing Seth win the title, and then on the following Raw, he's out there talking about how he won and everything like that. And I know everybody wants to move past it and everything, but have Braun Breaker maybe go out there and confront him. I hate to say putting Seth back against the Vision, but at least do it for one go round. Have Seth be a transitional champion and have Braun Breaker end up taking the title off of Seth. That way you can actually establish Braun as the leader of the Vision. You know what I mean? So
I like that, and it gives Braun Breaker, who rightfully deserves it, he's had such a fast come up, and I think that would really, like you mentioned, establish him more. But I also think at the same time, too, instead of having Roman lose it at WrestleMania, unless you have the right opponent, like Jacob Fatu wins the Money in the Bank, then he catches in on Roman, that would have a very interesting arc to it. But I also think at the same time, too, having Seth win his title back that he never lost, that also has a more solidifying story to it. So I'm in that camp with you, but I'm very interested, much like with all this. Again, compelling storytelling is so key. How we end this, where we go from here. Think of The Rock when he finally beats Stone Cold at WrestleMania and WrestleMania 19. Having Roman satisfyingly finally beat Seth, that would be cool. But I also do like the other direction of where that goes within the story between Seth and Roman Reigns, 14 years in the making. And speaking of years and speaking of everything in the making, we have years and years and years upon great talents from NXT coming up to the main roster, really showcasing these fine young talents. So NXT this week, one thing I do have to mention, because he's your boy, as he is a lot of our boys. So Tristan Angels cuts the promo. He stomps on the steps. There goes Shiloh's teeth. Bye-bye. His tooth is gone. He stomped on the tooth. And then Shiloh Hill comes up on the Titantron. And he's pretty much talking about, that's fine. It is whatever. And then he lets out this beast side that we saw at the Great American Bash under the ring. And then he goes, don't worry, Tristan. The fog is coming. The fog is coming. And he's doing the evil laugh and the lights and everything coming off. The fog is coming. So I wanted to ask your thoughts on this segment as well as the fog is coming.
So first off, if I told you that the fake tooth had a GPS tracker in it, would you believe me?
Yes.
It doesn't, but that's the kind of person that Shiloh Hill is you would believe something like that. I like it. I've not shied away from the fact that I really like Shiloh Hill. He's doing fantastic in NXT. The only thing is I'm hoping that this maybe transition for him or other side of him or whatever isn't going to be in the realm of spooky character, because we already know WWE are not fond of spooky characters. I had sent you a message when I saw it, and I was hoping that it was going to be some sort of, faction or like a group coming in to help Shiloh as the Fog. Like that was their name, was the Fog. If it's going to be an alternative persona for Shiloh Hill, I hope that they kind of stem it in reality rather than doing like some sort of spooky supernatural thing. Just that way he can take it to the main roster. Because as it stands right now, they're not going to use him on the main roster with a spooky gimmick. And as long as he's got the spooky gimmick, he's going to have to stay in NXT or work in TNA or do something like that. So I'm hoping they at least, anchor it in reality and find a way to do that. But I enjoyed the segment itself.
I think if it's like an extension of what Jeff Hardy had with Willow, I mean, he's already got the evil laugh, for God's sake. So, I mean, hey, why not? But Jeff Hardy, when he was Willow in TNA, it was just another extension, and then he go back to being normal Jeff Hardy. So you can have that with Shiloh, and then he'll be normal Shiloh Hill, as if he wasn't crazy enough. But it just adds another extension, dare I say, to the craziness of Shiloh Hill. The other thing I really want to mention with NXT, and next week we'll get into the fallout and everything, but I got to ask you, man, Tony D and Naraku street fight next week for the NXT Championship. I wanted to ask you your thoughts on that, as well as Lola Vice steals the victory from Kendall Gray, Kalani Jordan, and Kalani Jordan still has her overall, things about the NXT Women's Championship, which I know we're eventually going to get the Kalani and Kendall. But I want to talk about first Tony D and Naraku, that ending statement of him fighting with him in the NXT parking lot, and we got a street fight next week. What are you thinking? I think if there's any time to pull the trigger on the Raku anyway, I think this is it.
Yeah, I like the idea of the title change happening just on Netflix or on NXT rather than waiting for a PLE to happen. I think the last time we talked about this, that I had even said they need to have this feud, and then after this feud, whoever loses the feud needs to move up to the main roster. Go ahead, have Tony D lose the street fight, have him lose the title, and then have him move up to the main roster. Maybe he's the one that can be the glue for the Vision. Who knows? But I do see, like you're saying, I could see Naraku winning next week, winning the title next week, and then moving on to other challengers after Tony D. But I do think whoever loses next week, that's their final match in NXT.
Man, it's going to be very interesting just because they do have arcs. And again, we mentioned all these superstars on the come up. There's so much potential. Him, Mason Rook, and so many different people. Cam Hendricks, for example. And your thoughts on Kalani Jordan after that whole thing with Lola Vice winning? We're getting Kendall and Lola again, which I'm all for. But Kalani kind of on the back burner again, man.
That's been an interesting thing because Kalani and Lola, I have been feeling like both of them should be on the main roster already. Uh, I don't understand why we're keeping them down in NXT when there are so many people in NXT that can take their spots. You can give their spot to pretty much anybody in NXT and let Kalani and Lola Vice go up to the main roster. Both of them, their other halves are on main roster, so they can do a seamless transition into SmackDown, into Raw, put them in the United States title picture. We already know that both of them can put on bangers with Sol Ruka, put them in the Intercontinental title picture. It doesn't matter, but the fact that both of them are still in NXT is very odd to me. I don't see Lola Vice winning the title back. I kind of don't even see Kalani Jordan winning the title before she goes to main roster. I think she might just end up going to main roster on her way out of just never having the women's title. I don't think that's a good idea. I would like to see her win the title before she goes up, but I could see it where both of them sometime after SummerSlam end up moving up to the main roster.
I think it's one of those things with Kalani, with her story of never winning the title. I think it definitely works. Lola Vice, I know she's doing her thing in AAA with Mr. Iguana. They see her as an asset there. So I really want to see where they go in AAA. I want to see, I mean, her and Carmelo Hayes on the same roster would be fantastic. She's got the women's US title, the women's title, adds another challenger to that title and really bigs up the roster even more. And speaking of title changes, I think this is a layup. Last two things. We do have at Saturday night's main event, Paige and Brie Bella against Fallon Henley and Lainey Reed, Fatal Influence. I think it's time. I think it's a layup here at Madison Square Garden. Give Fatal Influence the women's tag titles.
Yep, and then go to rallies for celebration.
Yes. And you know what it is?
It's not Arby's. Everybody,
it's
stop saying it's Arby's. It wasn't Arby's. They even said it. So Cody got it wrong. He said, "Oh, Arby's, huh?" And then Aaron Solo said, "Actually, it was Rallies." That was the joke about the whole thing. But no, did you see?
The fact that she Arby's? Got merch. She got merch.
I was kind of jealous about that, but the fact that Arby's even is sending her merch, and I'm like, but it was Rallies. Like, we're just so the fact that Solo is just completely out of the picture.
Yep.
And everybody's like, oh yeah, no, it's Arby's. It's Arby's.
It's the butt of the joke. But he's become the butt of the joke, and Arby's giving it. It's great.
He's become the butt of the joke of the joke.
Yep.
Like that's even worse. No, you're right. Fatal Influence. They need this title win now. Hopefully that leads to JC Jane at SummerSlam winning the title, or at least being in the title picture. That would be really cool. But yeah, they definitely just need to go ahead and win the title now. And it's nothing against Brie and Paige.
No,
they are fantastic.
It's just
but
the nostalgia tour is kind of not working for me right now.
Which is so crazy to say nostalgia tour, because Paige is still, she's only a couple years older than some of the ones that are coming up from NXT now.
Yeah, dude, she's my age. She's 34.
Yeah, so it is insane. If she can stay healthy, she has a long, long time that she can do stuff. Uh Matter of fact, just go ahead and get the tag titles off of her
Mm-hmm.
and let her maybe go after one of the mid card titles. Let her jump into the main event scene. You know, but yeah, Fatal Influence, definitely this is the time to put the belts on them.
And speaking of belts and monies and everything, like we got Jalen Brunson, Roman Reigns acknowledgement. So we're going to see a little segment there. That's going to be fun. It's first of all, shout out to the Knicks. Let's go, baby. And as well on that front, Danhausen curses Dominic, but the wrong corner with the pyro. I thought that was hilarious on Raw.
Yeah.
Yeah, him and JD McDonough. He's talking about having a real one from New York help him back up. A lot of people think it's Enzo. You brought this up before we even came on. Mike Santana would be great for him to debut in Madison Square Garden. Your thoughts on Danhausen and JD McDonough?
So it's going to be fun. There's going to be a lot of just goofing off in that match. You can already feel like Miz and Kit are going to zombie their way out there with Danhausen. And then you're going to have Matt Cardona come out to try to help out Danhausen and everything like that. And yeah, I think that it's going to end up being Mike Santana coming out and helping Danhausen get the win. That being said, if that's the case, one, I don't want to see him stick with Danhausen and just be like one of Danhausen's little party guys or whatever. Let it just be this is a buddy. I called him for a one-time thing. That's it. But if Santana is going to feud with Judgment Day, sign me up for Santana versus JD McDonough. Absolutely. Sign me up for Dom versus Santana. I'm looking forward to it. Matter of fact, give me down the road Santana versus Chad Gable for the Intercontinental title. There's so much you can do with Santana. So if that is where he goes, I have no info on if that's where he's going. I don't know if you do, if you have anybody on the inside. But I know today was the last day of his contract with TNA as of filming today. So he is no longer under TNA contract. If he is being brought in as a big deal in WWE, then debuting a New Yorker at Madison Square Garden is a big way to bring in someone new. So I'm hoping that's what's going to happen. I do have, and this is an off the wall thing, but I do have an idea of who Danhausen's possible experiment can be. And it is the dumbest, most insane thing, but it actually makes sense. What if his new clone is PCO? Because they did stuff together on the indies. But you have PCO who can play the character beautifully, mind you. But you have him as Frankenstein's monster. You have bits and pieces of him, of like his gear, be the gingerbread man, but then he wears Danhausen face paint. And it's just PCO. But they don't call him PCO. They call him something else. But it was just one of those things that I was thinking about earlier. Like, what if the whole thing just leads to PCO coming in? Who knows?
Well, I will say, I will say this on that. Speaking of people coming in, I will say this. I am very happy. August 3rd, 2026, the day after SummerSlam. The vignette for Big Cass was fantastic. I think AEW dropped the ball with him. As we always say, Tony fumbled. I think him and Ricky Starks as the tag champs, they could have done more with. We never got the payoff with the learning tree with him and Chris Jericho. Him and Brian Keith were relegated to Ring of Honor. I think ever since 2017, 2018, where he was going through a lot of things, his matches with Bryan Danielson weren't the greatest, as Daniel Bryan. He got released. He went through addiction. He went through depression, and he came out on the other side. God bless him. Lost a lot of weight. Looks great. I'm excited to see what he does and his return to the WWE.
Oh, I am too. Uh, everything you said encapsulates it. Seeing Big Kaz as Big Kaz again is going to be really cool. And I mean, we all know who comes along when Big Kaz comes along.
Soft.
SAWFT. Soft.
My name is Enzo. To remind you, Enzo Amore again. I'm a certified G and a bona fide stud. Give me that.
And you can't teach that. Yeah. I know you're probably not the biggest Enzo fan.
No, not at all.
But
yes,
them as a team, I am so looking forward to it because they should have never broken up in the first place when they were in WWE the first time.
Correct.
They are the epitome of what I like in a tag team, where you have little scrappy guy that runs around running his mouth, and then you have big muscle guy that is there to back up little scrappy guy. That is my favorite version of a tag team. To reassure you how much of a pop they may get, just the other day, Monday, when the vignette played, I told my wife about it. And I said, hey, you have a shirt that is going to become relevant again. And she's like, which one? I said, it's your shirt that says Cup of Haters.
Cup of Haters?
She's got the Cup of Haters shirt from way back. And she was like, oh, they're coming back to WWE? I said, it looks that way. And she was like, oh, yes. So she was excited for them to return. And she hasn't really been following along with wrestling over the past couple of years. So just seeing her excitement for it was like, okay, maybe there is going to be some excitement for their return. And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. The people that know who they are, they're running this vignette, so it's getting people excited. The people that may not know who they are seeing, what is SAWFT? Let me look that up real quick. And they can find out who they are. So the vignette, I think, helps establish who it is. And I'm looking forward to it because it's the night after SummerSlam, right?
Yes, sir.
So that's even better, is they're re-debuting or returning the night after SummerSlam. And did they debut the Raw after SummerSlam?
They debuted the Raw, I believe, after WrestleMania.
Was it Mania? Okay. I couldn't remember if it was Mania or SummerSlam. I knew they debuted at one of the big Raw after big PLE nights. But I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I know you're looking more forward to Kaz, and I am too. But when it comes to them working together, I don't think you can't beat it. They're better together than they are apart.
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly. And just for the record, I will say this. As a character, great talker, very entertaining. As a person, but I'm thinking after 8 years, I would assume and I would hope that he has grown as a human being. It has been a long time. He went through a lot of stuff, and we don't need to get into that stuff here, but he went through a lot of stuff. So hopefully we get a better rendition and a different, rejuvenated and revitalized Enzo Amore. And you can't teach that. And if you don't like it, then you're a cup of haters. Cup of
A
haters.
cup of haters.
Cup of haters.
What do we got over here?
Yeah.
Cup of
Cup of
haters.
haters. Oh, man. It's going to be fun to see those two back together, really revitalize and amplify the tag team division. And we're going to continue to revitalize and amplify ourselves in our next edition of the Takedown Pod. So for the next 2 weeks, it's going to be Predictions Mania. As next week, we're going to be talking about wrestling and doing predictions for AEW's Redemption show in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. And then the following week, we're going to have predictions for night 1 and night 2 of SummerSlam. And there's a lot going on in the world of professional wrestling. So speaking of professional wrestling, we love what we do, and we love talking to each and every one of you. So with that being said, Roy, let us know we can follow us on the socials. You do an amazing job as well with the thumbnails. Let it rip, man. Where can we follow us?
You can follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Spotify, Facebook, TikTok. I think that's Instagram. Haha. All of those you can find us at either Takedown Pod or the Takedown Podcast. Make sure it's separate words. I realized this afterwards that there are other Takedown, but it's one word.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad I ended up making the space in between because that separates us. It separates us apart from them. So yeah, Takedown Pod or the Takedown Podcast on pretty much any platform. I try to keep up with it as much as I can. I've gotten into the habit of maybe doing 1 or 2 clips per day.
Mm-hmm.
So just be on the lookout for it. Other than that, yeah, that's pretty much everywhere you can find me.
So if you want to check out the Takedown Pod, wfja.com/podcast for all your needs. Go to the Takedown Pod, and our link tree will be in the description, as well as subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you want to subscribe to yours truly, it's S&M Network Shows, which also features the Takedown Pod and a lot of great shows. And Roy was on the latest edition of Deep Into the Heart of Wrestling, which will be released soon. We talked about the origins of the Wyatt Six. Gets a little emotional, but dang it, it was a great show all in all. You can also check me out, SM Show 1 or MCL92 on the Twitter machine. Larkin_92, MLarkinMB on Instagram, and StephenMikeShow.com and LFCfights.com for all your audio and video goodness. We will see you next week for predictions or some more wrestling talk. And then in a few weeks, we will be back with episode 3 of Wrestling Society X and our trip down memory lane. There's a lot to come. There's a lot to go. And you can come on and check out this fine show. For RC Roy Costin, my name is Mike Larkin. We'll see you next time on the Takedown Pod. And with that being said, so